We are a minority majority state, and the idea, this is a quote, and the idea that the four candidates of color are not going to be on the stage to bring those perspectives, to really speak to those communities, is really not doing right by the voters. Betty Yee, a former state controller who is running for governor, said last week, girl, those voters don't want you. I'm so glad that we're finally over woke and Democrats are being super normal and they're over the kind of obsession with identity and all the like anti-white male stuff. Oh, just kidding. You almost fell for it there, didn't you? You almost thought that maybe they were moving on from this. Well, no, the latest absurdity comes courtesy of California's gubernatorial election that's going on right now, where a presidential debate was scheduled with all the different candidates, the Republicans and the Democrats, and they had a list of some candidates who qualified and some who didn't. And it was based on objective metrics and measures like polling and fundraising. And at the last minute, the university cancels the debate because there's too many white men and there's no candidates of color on the stage. You genuinely cannot make this up. Anyway, here's a brief snippet from Fox News reporting on this story. Then we'll get into the details, which don't help. They actually don't make it better. They make it a lot worse. Anyway, here's that snippet.
A California governor's debate has been canceled at the University of Southern California after facing backlash for only including white candidates. However, the university rejecting these claims before the debate, saying, quote, "We want to be clear that we categorically, unequivocally deny any allegations that the debate criteria was in any way biased in favor or against any candidate." In response, Republican candidate Steve Hilton is slamming the university for canceling the event and is now urging the Department of Education to suspend its funding to the school.
Yeah, listen, I definitely think the school should come in for some scrutiny on this decision and for backing down to the most unreasonable meltdown instead of telling these delusional people to stuff it, because you really can't make this up. Oh, they're mad that in this Democratic primary election, well, actually, I'm sorry, it's a general election. They have a very weird system in California that maybe we'll discuss, but this has Republican and Democratic candidate. I think it's called a jungle election or jungle primary. The top two candidates head to a runoff, and even if the top two candidates are both Republicans or both Democrats, then you don't even get an opposite party. It's a really weird system. But anyway, this presidential election, it's a very diverse electorate supporting certain candidates at the top of the race. Steve Hilton is the main Republican. You've got Eric Swalwell running in there on the Democratic side, I believe. Anyway, it is they've decided who they're interested in, and based on these polls and fundraising numbers, they selected candidates. And it's like, it's not as if these are racist people. Many of these people are minorities. It's just they happen to be interested in several candidates from this list and not interested in others, and they're all white. Like, okay. And it's the idea that there's any sort of racial animus involved in this or discrimination is totally for the birds. So you're just saying you're not allowed to choose too many white people, I guess. And as if that is not the exact same kind of bat insane identity obsessed politics that America is so over and so done with. From the Times here. California governor debate canceled after criticism for lack of diversity. The debate would have featured 6 candidates, all white. The horror. The inclusion of a low polling mayor drew scrutiny in particular. The University of Southern California canceled the debate in the state governor's race less than 24 hours before it was supposed to take place Tuesday after facing backlash over including only white candidates. Oh my goodness. Concerns about the selection criteria, quote, have created a significant distraction from the issues that matter to voters, the university said in a statement provided Tuesday. USC and KABC, the Los Angeles television station that was to broadcast the debate, could not reach an agreement on how to allow more candidates, the university said. I'm sorry, some heads need to roll, metaphorically, of course, at this university. Because what do you mean this is going the concerns about these neutral eligibility criteria happening to not select any non-white people out of 6. It's not like they have 50 people on stage and there's not a single one. But anyway, this is crazy. So they're saying, well, it's distracting from the issues that matter to voters. Well, guess what? The issues that matter to voters, they're now not going to get this debate, and they're not going to get any of the insight that would have been shed on these different candidates' positions. How is that better? Am I insane? Like, how is that possibly better? And how are, I guess this part's not surprising, but how are we allowing people so crazy woke to still run universities that would cave to this kind of insane pressure mob rather than telling these people to shove it where the sun don't shine, which is the only appropriate response? Of course, it would be a different story if, like, they'd actually done racism and somehow excluded minority candidates, but they didn't. They just established a cutoff criteria based on polling, and we'll get into some of the details of it, and fundraising, and then invited the candidates to the debate who met the criteria and not the candidates who didn't. And it happens that the major candidates leading right now are now white. I'm sorry you hate democracy among a diverse electorate, but you're not, what should they invite people who don't belong on the stage just so they check off an identity box? Don't you see how that's like way more racist? Am I crazy, or is that way more racist? That seems way more racist to me. Anyway, more details from the Times here. The debate was scheduled to include 6 candidates, 2 Republicans and 3 Democrats, who were polling at the top, as well as another Democrat, Matt Mahan, the mayor of San Jose. Mr. Mahan's polling has been weak, but he has raised millions of dollars from Silicon executives since he entered the race in late January. The inclusion of Mr. Mahan, who, like the other 5 participants, is white, led to blowback from the prominent candidates of color who were left out. We are a minority majority state, and the idea, this is a quote, and the idea that the 4 candidates of color are not going to be on the stage to bring those perspectives, to really speak to those communities, is really not doing right by the voters, Betty Yee, a former state controller who is running for governor, said last week. Girl, those voters don't want you. They're literally not saying they support you, are interested in you in the polling. So this majority minority state's electorate is not interested in your candidacy, but you're saying you should be thrust upon them anyway, even though you're polling at like 1% or whatever, because you're brown. I don't know how to explain to you that's not woke. Or because you're a minority. I don't know what her ethnicity is, but you know what I'm saying. It's like, that's crazy. That's actually wild. And yes, this one person, Matt Mahan, was included despite polling low, but that's because the equation they used to calculate it is based on polling and fundraising, and he's done excellent on the fundraising. So, okay. I mean, you could quibble with maybe how they compiled the equation and the analysis to determine who is and isn't allowed, but it has nothing to do with race. I cannot believe they're still pulling this in the big 2026. Really? Really, California? God, this is why people hate progressive politics and culture. More details here on this supposedly super racist formula. The formula to determine debate participants was created by Christian Gross, a political science professor. He said in an interview that the formula had combined polling and fundraising data and considered the length of time that a candidate had been in the race. He said he had based it on research showing that fundraising intensity, considered over time and in relation to other candidates, is a central predictor of viability in a primary election. Mr. Gross, who teaches at USC but was not involved in organizing the debate, said he crafted the formula, quote, without knowing who would benefit and who would not, and then gave the scores to the organizers to decide whom to include. Dozens of professors from across the country, in a letter they posted on Monday, defended Mr. Gross's formula and called on the university to reject, quote, all efforts to apply political pressure on its faculty and its overall academic mission. Listen, I have no idea who this guy is, and maybe he's, generally speaking, somebody I have lots of disagreements with or wouldn't be a fan of, but at least on this, it really sounds like he did nothing wrong. I don't know enough about the specifics of all the equations and everything that was used to co-sign his formula 100% and say this is exactly right. But it's very clear that it's not a racist formula. It's not a discriminatory, it is an objective metric. And they have to use some kind of objective metric because you can't, when you have a lot of people running for office, it is actually doing people a disservice if you have 20 people on the stage, right? Because then you, and most of them are like irrelevant minor candidates. That's actually doing a disservice to the voters. Now, of course, the alternative can also be true and that it can be too exclusionary. And I think you see that with third-party presidential candidates being kept out of presidential debates because a commission controlled by Republicans and Democrats sets the guidelines intentionally very, very high. But obviously, the threshold was not so high in this instance because even some candidates polling at pretty low numbers were able to make it. So it's like it's not anyone else's fault except your own that your candidate or your campaign wasn't able to meet these requirements, and invoking your race as a get out of jail free card for your lack of performance isn't going to cut it. Like, no one wants that. Even the majority minority voters of California, clearly, based on your own polling numbers, babe. And who are these people who are still pulling this stuff and pressuring this university? I genuinely want to know, because even I'm seeing many left-wing commentators online mocking this. So here is Rotimi Adeyo. Sorry if I mispronounced that. He's a left-wing writer. He wrote, "We have to stop doing stuff like this, man," attached to the New York Times story about them canceling it for having only white candidates. Um, and then the former Biden staffer, Yemisi Egduole, again, sorry if I mispronounced that, but that did my best there. USC's debate was canceled after backlash over excluding candidates of color, even though the criteria used were based on polling and fundraising, the same metrics used in basically every race. So, I mean, listen, both of these people that I just read to you happen to be people of color. I didn't select them for that reason. I just saw their commentary. But it's like, even I think a lot of quite progressive, quite open-minded, diversity supportive people still find this exhausting and stupid and counterproductive. And it is it's like a microcosm of, and obviously this isn't directly something the Democratic Party did. Like, I think this, because this is the university and it's an election, because of their weird jungle primary system, it's a bipartisan election, but it's something that's clearly coming from people who are culturally progressive and politically progressive. And it's so radioactive to normal Americans that, like, every Democrat needs to get on the record and condemn this, but a lot of them probably won't. Like, I'd be curious, what about these Democratic candidates who did make it, like Swalwell, for example? Are they putting out statements denouncing this cancellation, or are they kind of like mealy mouth, afraid to anger like the angry mob? Because that would be disappointing and I think self-defeating. But also, this is just such a layup for Republicans and conservative media. Here is Tommy Lauren writing on X, "Ever heard of the dumb Democratic snake eating its own tail? Well, here it is. These candidates of color did not poll high enough to make the debate, but because the Democratic Party is so beholden to identity politics, the whole debate is now canceled instead. You can't make this up. Woke is a disease. Liberalism is a disease." Well, the thing we love about Tommy is she's always got very nuanced, caveated statements. No, I think she's a little over the top in her rhetoric here, but it really is the kind of thing that, I mean, I agree with some of what she's saying, and that this will resonate. Like, this is the perfect Fox News conservative media story to correctly, in this case, point out how ridiculous and toxic identity politics is. And I'm just not convinced that Democrats will be able to fully eschew it or stamp it out, because there are very powerful activists and groups that these politicians and prominent leaders within the movement and within different slices of society are afraid of, because they are freaking scary. And those people are deeply, deeply wedded ideologically to a lot of this stuff and will never let it go so long as they draw breath. So good luck navigating all of that. To my progressive and Democratic friends, I can't say I envy you. In fact, I kind of pity you.